Hey guys, welcome to Coaching with Chris. I am excited because I have Roland Cochrun with me today. Like, I've been watching this guy. He's everywhere. I see him with a bunch of my friends. He's this good-looking young guy, foodie. I think you're a foodie because I see you picture all this food, which I am a food wine guy. But I just had to know more about him. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, would you be interested in going on Coaching with Chris? Instantly got a message back. Said absolutely, and I think that that's how business is done. And so I am excited. I woke up this morning saying this is going to be a great day. I can't wait to be able to talk to you, get to know you better, plus all of our Windsor family. So welcome.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm excited too. I was looking forward to. I'm glad we didn't have to. I was when I was chatting with your team. It was like, man, I don't have to wait for August of this thing. So I'm glad we found. I had 2 days where I'm back in town before I leave again, and so here we are, cranking it out.
So you know what? Like, give me your story. How were you always in sales? Did you knew you want to be in sales? Like, how did this whole thing happen?
No, I've never been in sales. I don't even think I wanted to be in sales. And to this day, I guess I'm in sales by default here, running a coaching company because, especially with the type of coaching, which I'm sure we'll get into in a bit, it's hard to sell. I mean, I'm selling something that no one wants. They do want it, but they don't know they want it, which sucks. I mean, if you're in sales, that is just not something fun to sell. I always tell my wife, I'm like, man, let's open up a Baskin Robbins franchise or something, or at least I know people want ice cream, right? So I have half the job solved for me. So no, my background is actually in medicine. So when I was 15 years old, I met my best friend's brothers at the time had these clinics, these physical therapy clinics, and it was awesome. I was like, dude, you get paid to do this, and they made a lot of money. They had nice cars, nice homes, and so really I was like, wow, this is awesome. You just get to help people work out. You take their pain away, and and their clientele was all these college bound athletes, right? So this whole place is full of soccer playing youth in San Diego. So it's just a dream. So I was sold the second I saw that. And so I went to somebody locally told me to go to the private practice annual conference was in Seattle. So I was originally from Portland, Oregon. And they're like, hey, it's never in the Northwest. This is a great opportunity. You should go up there and check it out. 16 years old. So I drove up there and went to this conference as a 16-year-old, which just so you know, it was going to be 12 years before I would have my license. And then 2 years after that, before I'd have the opportunity to open up my own practice. And so I went to this conference, and you know, the thing I noticed 40 people there who were different than everybody else. These 40 individuals, and they were never in the courses. They were speaking on stages. They're always in the lobby. They got people gathered around them, asking them questions, taking selfies with them. So as a kid, I wanted to be them. They were happy. Everyone seemed to be attracted to them. The more and more I found out from them, these people owned hundreds of locations, some of them 200 locations. And so I'm thinking, wow, this is whatever these 40 people have, that's what I want. And so, really from age 15 to 27, I went to every single conference from then forward. Every practice conference, every national conference, and then the local insurance agency or insurance network conference. Wow. And so by the time I got out, I knew more about making money than most of the people in the business. Things were tremendous. We broke even at month 2, profitable at month 4. And a year later, we had multiple locations. I had a leadership team in place. I was, after year 2, I basically was retired from, the day-to-day of working. And, my whole job was getting referrals. How do I get people to fall in love with the brand and use me exclusively? And so that went on for years until I was just unfulfilled. My heart wasn't in it anymore. And luckily, right around that time, my wife and I went to a conference. I don't know if any of you in your area have seen this, but private equity got an appetite for my industry. And when that happens, you're really lucky because some of the multiples can get north of sometimes 10 times EBITDA. And so when I didn't really understand that, I always heard from the old timers, they're like, oh, you're lucky to get 1X. And so I'm like, well, I can't do that because I'm 30 years old at the time. I can't do 1X. Well, I'm at this happy hour with this private equity group, and they're like, So tell me about it. And I tell them, and they're like, oh, no, I could conservatively get you 8 times, maybe more. And so I still, I don't know anything about money. I'm just a kid. Well, I'm talking to people and they're like, well, hey, Roland, the time value of money, because I was still getting out of student debt. I was still paying off, have all these locations that I've been cashing out, right? So I don't even have any money, because every time I get 100 grand, I opened up another location. And
Right.
so this guy's like, no, Roland, if you invest the money, it will double every 7 to 10 years. And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean by what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
At this point, I had other sources of income too. I have urgent care clinics, which I open to this day. So I've opened up to other billing and collection companies, so other things that make money. So I don't really need the money from this particular business anymore if I didn't have it. And so, long story short, told me how much they would pay for it. We went to auction, went through a merger and acquisition process, such as anybody who sold anything is the worst process you'll ever go through in your life. Horrible. And you have to do it. It's not like you can't be on these calls. So like I worked for the first time in a long time, like 50-hour weeks. It was a horrible process. But my wife and I got a check for a life-changing amount of money, and that was that. So I wanted to coach. That was what I wanted to do before I sold. The reason I wanted to sell was to go full-time coaching. And so how does this tie into mortgage, right? So who's this idiot who's never been licensed? It's actually perfectly tied into mortgage. In physical therapy, no one comes to us. They go to their primary care physician. They go to their ortho. No one comes to us directly. Okay. They should, but they don't. They do not come to us directly. And so my past clients come back, but they don't ever come to me first. So the only way that I was going to be successful is if I convinced people to refer to me, use me exclusively as their source. And so when I met a loan officer, I said, all right, well, tell me how your business works. And I'm hearing it and I'm like, whoa, you make how much per loan? And I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. You need systems to make people fall in love with you and use you as their exclusive lender. And then you need systems to close the loans once they come in. Is that right? And they're like, yeah. And then I was like, in a perfect world, you could scale this and you wouldn't need to be the ones closing loan. Is that correct? And he's like, absolutely. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a dream industry. So I thought for a second about getting into it. But then I was like, no. Like your passions for coaching. So I actually never became a licensed originator. I coached him. His business exploded. I coached his branch manager. His business exploded. I coached their regional because he was like, what are you doing that's making this work? And so my approach is different. I mean, never being in the industry, I don't think like a salesman. I was never a salesman. I was a person that people wanted to win. People wanted to hang around. I was a person that people valued. I was the guy that people invited to places. I was the one that you wanted to give a seat at the table. That was who I became. And then I got the referrals because of that. And I think as a salesperson, you guys have all sorts of insane sayings like you're only as good as your last deal and all this nonsense. And it's not an efficient way. Certainly post pandemic, it's not how branding works. It's not how positioning works. And so that was my long way of saying I've not originated, but I believe I know more about earning referrals in this business than most originators.
Wow. I think that probably generates tons and tons of questions. So, I'm in 23. I know what 24 looks like. I think originator says that. I think most originators today are saying, okay, well, I know I have a lot of opportunities sitting in front of me, but what am I going to do today? So if you think about that, of 3 tactics that as an originator, I truly need to be able to start to implement to be able to earn more of a referral. I mean, let's face it, we are a referral business, but to really truly be able to place it, because I think a lot of loan officers today have looked for this easy way out. That's not really working for them, and they're stuck. And how can you help us through that?
Oh, yeah, simple. I won't even say, I'm not even going to say 3 easy steps. I'm going to say 1. I mean, really, marketing is the act of gaining attention. And I don't think loan officers understand this because they think that marketing brings in business. It does not. It does not. If you read any really well-written marketing book, marketing is the act of gaining attention. That's what marketing is. So all these things, cold calls, posting on social media, email campaigns, all of these things are mediums of which to gain attention. But then when you have their attention, what do they see? And for most loan originators, they see a loan officer. They see somebody talking about buy downs and this strategy and that strategy. And so, there's a difference between branding and marketing. Marketing is the act of gaining attention. Branding is the act of telling a story. Seth Godin, I think his definition of branding is the best. Seth Godin defines it as, I'm this, not that. So to me, if I look at your brand, let's say Orlando, I always like to use Instagram, for example, just because it's such a, landing on someone's Instagram profile is just so basic. And so I always like to use that example, but this example really applies to any platform for that matter, even in-person marketing. But essentially, when I look at you, can I tell what you are, who you're for and who you're not for within a second? And to me, if you haven't communicated that, chances are you look like a loan officer and there's 400,000 other loan officers. And so you're going to find yourself competing for business. Whereas for me, I never competed in my city, never. And I still don't even compete as a coach because I am this and I am not that. And one thing, with me, I will never tell you to cold call. I'll never tell you. My clients know how to make money. So we're not going to be wasting our time coaching, talking about what to do from a day-to-day standpoint. I don't know, go meet people. Where their real problem is when they meet you, there's nothing behind the brand. You look like an originator. You look like somebody who does a job. And in a competitive market, especially if you're trying to land referrals in the top 5%, if you just look like a person who has a job, I don't think that's going to be a compelling enough brand to win going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you talk about what do they look at, I think judgment comes into play, how we're interacting. So what are you coaching in a sense? I think this is a great topic, by the way. I love where you're headed. Is how do I start that process when that client is now in front of me in whatever fashion? It could be Zoom. It could be in person. It could be on the telephone. But that's the foundation, in a sense, I think, of setting this up so that you are really, truly building a referral business. So how, if I am not trained, how do I overcome that? And what do I do?
Yeah. Essentially, what is this? What is the brand, right? What do I show up as then, right? And that's a question that everyone really asks me because they hear what I'm saying. They're like, he's right. I don't disagree. But then that always begs the next question, which is, how do I show up then? What do I do then? If I'm trying to win in this market, what is the brand that wins? And there's a simple answer to that. Here's how I'm going to say it. If you look at the top, look at the people that you admire most in this industry, the people who are just crushing it, making a massive impact. Their name is not only echoed without their market, but their name usually is echoed throughout the mortgage industry. If you look at these individuals, they are living impressive lives. That's what's going on. And I think it's really difficult for people to really wrap their head around this because they want to fight me on it. They're like, no, it can't be that easy. There needs to be more to it. There needs to be some sort of special gadget. They always want it to be a CRM, a home bot. It needs to be something, Roland.
You know quite a bit about mortgage
Oh,
though.
trust me. I've if you're going to go into an industry and coach the top 1%, I need to know stuff. So yeah, don't get me wrong. That first year, I have accounts with most of the CRMs. If you're going to come in and help someone become significant in the market, you need to understand what that industry is and what tools they have accessible to them, what's against the law, what can't you do, But I mean that if you look at these individuals and you compare them side by side, if you can take the industry elites and you put them right next to an average loan officer, they will win every single time. And most of them are working for massive retail companies selling the highest rates in the nation. And they still win every single time. It's because people don't choose the loan officer. People don't choose the loan product. They choose the loan officer. And that's the thing. Everyone's, they always are. These loan officers are switching companies like crazy, and they're trying to get these competitive pricing or whatever it is, or this single time close offer. Like that's going to save their business. Right. The truth of the matter is, and you look at the biggest, the top producers, the ultra elite in this industry, they work for massive retail companies selling very generic products with the highest rates in the nation. And the reason they win every single time is because a referral to them means more than a referral to the other guy or gal. That's why when I send a referral to this loan officer, it means their team has an amazing work environment. They're playing cornhole on Thursdays. Their team's well cared for. When I send a referral to them, their referral partners are well cared for. They're always connecting. He's hosting us, bringing in speakers and really trying to enlighten and bring everybody in the community, connecting them with CPAs and commercial lawyers. And they're better together because of a referral to this person. When I send a referral to them, the mortgage industry is better. The community is a better place if I send this person a referral. Whereas if you look at the average person, most people are working so that they can stop working. Seriously, 99% of people are working so that they can stop working. And that's obvious. I can tell a person who's working to stop working from a person who could have stopped working years ago or is still working and plans to work forever. I can tell the difference. We all can. We all can. Even a kid. If you grabbed a kid and say, which one's more passionate about their job, they'll point to the guy who's working because they're passionate about creating a change and leaving a legacy. That person wins every single time. They have something that makes them better than the guy who's working to stop working. Because what's a referral mean to this guy or this gal? Yeah. They retire earlier. Kid goes to a nicer college, right? It's a the only people who get better is them and their family. They get nicer shoes. They wear some red bottoms, right? That's all that happens. Their family gets wealthier and lives a better life. The elites in the industry win because a referral to them means so much more. It's affecting hundreds, if not thousands of other people. And I think if we really look down deep at the people we admire most, their life is making a massive impact. There's no question that they matter. Yeah. They don't wake up fighting to get motivated. They know exactly what they need to do, and they're happy. They're proud to be who they are. Most people want to be somebody they're not. They want to be somebody else. Yeah. The elites in the industry want to be themselves. And that personal brand, there's nothing like it. It's everyone always talks about the it factor when somebody walks into a room. That's the it factor. The it factor is this person's not here for money. This person's to see, is there someone here that is good for my group, my tribe that I've built? Is there another person here that's a good fit? And that's very different. When everybody else in the group, all they're thinking about is, oh my gosh, I hope I get a lead. Somebody send me some business, and we can tell. Yeah, no, I think they can too. Let's just put a scenario to you. I'm at an event. There's 50, 60 realtors. I always say have a goal of trying to meet 2 to 3 people new. To me, that tricks my brain. And I got to play a lot of games with my brain sometimes. And I've got to sell my brand in a sense and meet this person at the same time. And, I've always taught that, the meeting is not about me, it's about them. But when I make it about them, it does show who I am and who I am not. But how do I do that in an effective manner that you would be coaching? So for me, your in professional services, the brand is you. The brand's you. It's the only thing that separates you from the other loan officer. That's it. That's the way it goes in professional services. So loan officers are always talking about their product like it's like a Nike or a TaylorMade or it's like, get over yourself. It's in professional services that the people don't select the person because of the product. I mean, they choose the person they trust. When we're dealing with our money and big financial decisions, it's a very personal choice, and it's usually somebody that you align with. Almost always, right? People, one of Seth Godin's other definitions of marketing, I love this one. People like us do things like this. So when I'm going to make a decision, I want to know, are you people like me? So for you, example, before say that saying again, people like us do things like this. So a great example of this, I'll give you 2. One, when you sent a request, I've already followed you on social media, so I see a bit about your life, how you conduct yourself, what you do, who you know. But yeah, before I hit reply and said yes, I went to your profile real quick. I looked around. I said, just really quickly, scroll through your last 5 or 6 posts. I was deciding, are you people like us? Are you like me? Is this going to be a waste of my time? Is this somebody who doesn't get what I get? Is this somebody who doesn't want to learn? Is this somebody who's rigid? Is this somebody who have a problem with my approach? Is this going to be somebody who has a problem with me not being an originator? That's what I'm trying to assess. Am I talking to an entrepreneur who wants to actually help people? Or am I going to talk to some rigid person who's stuck in their ways? That's what I'm really trying to understand. Is he people like me? Right. So people like us do things like this. I'll give you another quick example of this. When the Mercedes commercial comes on in November, right? It's approaching Christmas time. The guy's going, he grabs the wife. His wife's hotter than hell. The house is gorgeous, right? It's got this huge stone thing. You can see through the window. This guy's office is just mahogany's everywhere. This guy's a total stud. He's got a Rolex on. He comes out, his wife's all, he's got his hands over his wife's face, and he opens up his hands, and there's a Mercedes in the driveway with a bow on it for her Christmas present. That advertising has nothing to do with the Mercedes. They didn't even show the Mercedes. Half the commercial was this guy with his wife. The statement is people like us, rich people who are happy, who have beautiful homes, who are confident in themselves and confident in their businesses and confident in their abilities, buy $120,000 cars for their wife on Christmas. That's the statement. People like us, if you identify as that man or that woman, people like us do things like this. And so when you're walking into the networking group, have your goal of whatever, because you need to mix around there. I just got back from Mastermind, same thing, right? I had my objectives for how I'm spending my time there. That doesn't have to corrupt your approach, because again, now when I'm having a conversation, people like us do things like this. So when I'm walking up to Barry because I haven't seen Barry for probably 2 months, so I walk up to Barry, and people like us do things like this. So what do people like us do? Do I fanboy him? Do I take a selfie with him the second I see him? No, we're friends. I would do that maybe if I've never met him or something. I'm his friend. I shake his hand. I understand he's busy. He's got 2 other people there who he's talking to. I just give him a little acknowledgement. I care. So, right. So what do people like us do? And that's what you want to think, because that's the message you're sending every time you're at a networking event, every time you're on stage, anytime you're doing anything. What are the people who I want to start referring me do? And do I look like someone that they refer business to? And again, 99% of people don't, right? They look desperate. And the top 5% don't do business with desperate people. The top 5% do business with people who know who they are, who are confident in their abilities, right? So when I'm at the networking event, if I feel the need to tell you how good I am, the message that sends to them is, this person doesn't think they're very good, because people who know they're good don't feel the need to express that while they're here.
Yeah, you're making me think about a quote my dad told me years ago, which was, people want you to do good. Actually pretty good.
Most people.
Yeah. But just not too good.
Yeah.
He goes, let that soak in. That's kind of the way my dad, I talk too much. He listened and then talked. And I'm like, I wish I would have learned that little tool. But what goes through your mind when you hear that quote? Because I feel like what you're trying to tell me is a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's a the reality of it all is people are doing them, right? I'm doing me, you're doing you, and that's just what people are doing. And there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean that I'm not benefiting a ton of people in my wake as you are, right? But the truth is, I know Roland's got things he wants to do. I got things I'm trying to accomplish. I have a certain number of people that I'm hoping to influence before my time's up. And so I'm doing me. And so to your point, when you're at the event, there's this temptation to run some sort of program. And people always come in and tell me, oh, Roland, no, I'm very interesting when I'm there. Interested, not interesting. It's all about them. It's all about them. I go, bro, that's still an agenda, because what conversation is this person who's obsessed with them? A conversation is a back and forth. I mean, the reason I was so successful networking was because when I showed up, I could care less if I got a referral. I knew the value I had to offer. I knew who I was as a person. Honestly, what I wanted was somebody to come up to me and say, hey, this new bar down the street just got in, at 6 p.m. They have this new bourbon. It's super, super rare. Would you like to come try it with me? I've been waiting all month for it. That's a cool conversation. I'm going to go do that with that person. So my goal is, when you go in, not only should you not have an agenda, just because that's weird. But again, you act like you. I mean, again, that's what a personal brand is. A personal brand's you. So if you would go grab a very rare bourbon with a stranger because you've been waiting all month for this guy because they're really great, they have this connection with Kentucky, they get this bourbon in, then do that. So really to me, people are trying to create a personal brand. I always say, create the person that you want to brand.
Hmm. On that topic, by the way, I would take that. I didn't know that I needed that statement ever said to me, but now I do know that I need that statement said to me. A, because I love conversation, and B, because I love bourbon. But I think that, for me, sometimes whatever holds me back in whatever environment it would be the fear of insecurity and the fear of being liked.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're saying does touch both of those things. Uh, uh, and I think touches a lot of people where those are two things that are like their biggest evil, holds them back, from everything that you're saying to go do. And, uh, I do believe everybody at some point has something that comes in that holds that block. And my question to you is that how do you overcome it, or don't you have it at all?
No, absolutely no. So let me get this clear. Let me just make this clear for everyone. The whole concept of don't care what other people think, that's bullshit. That'll make you poor. You will make no money if you listen to that advice. We are designed to care what other people think. Now, that does not mean you sell out. That doesn't mean that you take it to heart and have it ruin your month. That doesn't mean that you let it intimidate you. That doesn't mean that you let it derail you from your plans or force you to quit. So again, caring what people think is natural. If you don't, yeah, you're probably a sociopath. I mean, it is normal to care. So, man, I'm looking at the clock here and I'm like, man, how much time do I got? This is something that you and I could do an entire episode
maybe that's
on.
part two. Maybe
because I can. This is something I am very, very something we do in our coaching program. Because to your point, the biggest pushback that I'm going to get on this is, well, that works for Roland because he's been in 97 countries. And so he can show up because he's interested. He has this resume, or he drives this car or whatever. So there's these people who have this little thing and they'll say, oh, okay, well, this doesn't apply to me because I'm not interesting. I don't have a personal brand. There's nothing. I haven't done anything. Blah blah blah. Long list of excuses as to I'm not. There's no reason for me to show up. I'll get smoked every single time. And if that's the narrative, then you're correct. You shouldn't show up then, because you probably will get smoked. If that's how if you're uninteresting and you have nothing of value to say, and everyone else in that room is far more interesting than you, so there's no point, then yeah, you should probably not show up, because chances are you're going to show up like somebody like that and you're not going to get any referrals. I mean, that's the truth. So the easiest way to sum this up in the shortest way possible is we're designed to care. So the ego, everyone thinks the ego is a bad thing, but if you really look at what the ego is, and you look at, from way back when they first were talking about egos, even in the Bible or the Odyssey, or even the modern day definition in the Webster's Dictionary, an ego provides you with a sense of self and tests your reality. That's what an ego does. It provides you with a sense of self and tests your reality. So the ego is actually not an evil thing. It's only evil if your sense of self is derived from the things you have, the approval of others, right? So again, it's not a bad thing. It just, you get to pick how you're going to come up with that sense of self, and you choose. And you choose because we were given an ego to be able to assess the situation, so that we could carry out our agenda, our purpose, create the influence that we're supposed to create, get it, whatever it is that we need to do the thing that we feel compelled to do. So, for example, here's my favorite example of using your ego, your identity to an advantage. When I go to a mortgage conference, I wear my pad. I bring the Aquanaut. I bring the Submariner, the Rolex. I'm wearing my nicest blazers, $15,000 blazers. So why am I, between those two accessories, wearing $100,000 of value? For somebody who knows that I've done a ton of this work, I don't gain any value from anything that I own. That does not add or subtract. If I lost those things, I wouldn't be less of a person. If I gained those things, I wouldn't be more of a person. So why would somebody who's woke enough to know that still participate in those activities? Because I know what the world of mortgage is like, and they care about money. They will not listen to me unless I have a lot of money. I know this. I'm using my ego to assess the situation. So if I'm going to walk into that room, I'm assessing the situation accurately. If I'm going to change any of the people in that room, if I'm going to influence them, they want to know that I have money. It's important to them. And again, I'm playing the game now. I'm not going to let that get to my head. I'm not going to let that change my agenda. But I acknowledge that in mortgage is very much something that they think about. So I'm using that to my advantage to get what I want. And the same thing goes for every situation. You need to assess the situation, and you need to show up in a way where you're going to be able to get what you want in that situation. And our egos do this for us. So they are not the enemy at all. So to tie the thing in the bow and speak to what you're talking about, insecurity, lack of self-confidence, concern, am I good enough? Is this going to work? If that's your identity, if that's your ego, if that is what you've decided, that I am somebody who's an 8 out of 10, I'm kind of good, but now that guy showed up, I might as well leave because there's not, like, if that's how you are assessing yourself, because remember, ego, sense of self, sense of reality. So if your sense of self is, I'm pretty good, but I'm not a 10, I'm like an 8. If I'm not that interesting, I'm a bad speaker, I'm not that interesting to listen to. My thoughts are boring. Compared to that person, my production's nothing. So I might as well not even try. If that's who you have decided you are, you will show up in that world that way. You will think that way. You will have beliefs if somebody thinks that, and the reality you will create is one where you're pretty good-ish, but not if better people are around. And that is a choice, as a personal decision. I know it doesn't feel like a decision, but you're the one that says that. How many of you had somebody sit you down and say, hey, you're a 6 out of 10. I'm a 10. That's a 10. That's an 8. That's a 9. You're a 6. You need to have this number of production. No one sits down and tells you this. This is your own decision. So I could talk forever on how these egos are formed, how we use them, what they're used for, how you can start to take control of these to get what you want, when to turn them on, when to turn them off, how many egos. That the billionaires that I know have 79 different egos, and they choose the most strategic one for that particular event. Most average people have one identity. I'm a loan officer by day, father by night, mother by night. That's their identity. And I'm decent, right? And they show up that way in all fronts. They show up that way in this meeting, in that meeting, and then they're a 8 out of 10 loan officer who has a child or two. That's their identity. And think about that. How are you going to be able to perform against somebody who has 37 identities to choose from given the particular situation? It'd be like golfing, to use Rene Rodriguez's example, it'd be like golfing with a putter only. I mean, you're going to scoot the thing all the way down there, but man, it's just not the most efficient way to do it. So picture these different identities and these senses of self, let them change, because I promise you, for all of us, there was a time where we didn't think we sucked. And we decided to decide that we sucked. And so again, just like you changed it from not sucking to sucking, you can also change it from not sucking to being interesting.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, we're gonna have to go deeper in on that subject.
Oh, it's a huge conversation. Awesome. Huge. Awesome. I have a way of explaining it that will, change a lot of people's lives. Because to your, I always say this: the ego is the gatekeeper. The second your identity is the gatekeeper. You wake up in the morning, the second you open your eyes, you have told yourself who you are. You dress like that person, you act like that person, you get a coffee that person gets, it's the gatekeeper. And so most people will decide, if you decide, wake up, hey, I'm an 8 out of 10. I'm pretty darn good, but I'm not, exceptional. There's a chance you could spend your whole life doing that and living a slightly above average life with a slightly above average income. And again, a lot of people don't know it's a choice. They don't know that they picked that. They felt like they were born an 8 out of 10. And the truth is, only thing that difference Barry Habib or a Dave Savage or Rene Rodriguez, they self-anointed themselves none of those three guys, they're all, they'll offend me, but I mean, come on, they're not these like studly 6-pack abs, good looking. I mean, they just decided, I'm going to be a 10 out of 10, somebody who knows something. I'm going to do what I'm passionate about for my job. And they made the decision for themselves. And then now look at where that's got them.
That's awesome. Does Renee even golf?
I don't know. Here's how I know he doesn't golf. The guy traveled for what 200. He stayed in 273 hotels nights in a hotel last year. So I know he doesn't golf purely because how could he? There's just no time there. The guy's laser focused on creating the change he's here to create. So I'm sure he's golfed before, but I doubt homie's got the time for that.
I mean, the last time I saw him, he made fun of my shoes. So I looked down and looked at his shoes. That's the last time I saw Renee. So if he hears this, he'll know the last time I saw Renee was when he made fun of my shoes. Tell me about coaching. Tell me about coaching with you. What does it look like? How's it different? And if I want to, I have questions. To me, I believe in this. You're going to have a mentor. You're going to have a coach, and you're going to have someone you're chasing, or you're going to get stuck. Like 90% of the people raise their hand at Mastermind, just that where you were, right? Where they're all stuck. And I'm like, come on, get a plan, change the play, and go win. But how do I engage with you, and how does it look?
So coaching, exactly to your point. I mean, I have two. If you included like Renee and some of the other people that I see, not regularly, but throughout the, I probably have 4 coaches, and they all plug a different thing, right? Renee is helping me with, any sort of my keynote speaking, right? And then I've got my other coach, Walt. It's more a business strategy. I'm going tomorrow to Jeff Walker's mastermind. And Jeff Walker's just this brilliant, one of the OGs in internet marketing, right? So what I would say is, when you're going to think about a coach, don't go like Googling or asking like, what's the best coach in mortgage? That's nonsense. What don't you know? Because the majority of the coaches are just going to kind of tell you stuff that you already know. I mean, depending on, if you're new in the industry, then you might learn a ton. But I mean, for most people who've been in the industry for 5 years, there's nothing you're going to hear from the vast majority of the coaches in mortgage that you don't already know. I mean, so do you really need them to tell you what to do? Is that really necessary? Or are you holding back for a different reason? Again, our job is to, when you're assessing yourself on what you need, you really need to determine, what don't I know? Because a lot of the time it's not a lack of knowledge. A lot of the time it's I am not executing. And you need to figure out why that is, and then find the coach who will help bridge that gap, right? So if you wanted to keynote speak and it's due to a lack of confidence or skill set then yeah, Renee would be your guy, because he would show you, hey, this is what goes into becoming a keynote speaker. And then there's other keynote speaker coaches that you could move on to from that if you were wanting to, become a paid keynote speaker and then figure out that whole world, right? But my point is, when you're going to hire a coach, you want to figure out what is the thing holding me back. If this was solved, I would move miles ahead before I'd have another problem. Then once you ran into that problem, you'd hire a coach for that one. But to me, the way I see a lot of people doing, they're solving all of these problems, but they're not. So I see it as like a railroad track. So there's like this big gap ahead, and you've got the track built out for miles ahead. You've watched 1,000 YouTube videos. You've listened to millions of podcasts. You're jumping in your stinking cold tank for whatever reason that people do that. You're doing all this stuff, and there's this gap right in front of you, and the train just you can't go forward because there's this gap, and you're not addressing it. Again, it might not even be a coach. It could be a book. I don't know, but the gap hasn't been bridged. And so really, you can do everything you want, but until that one's addressed, it's the rate limiting step. So to me, I always like to say that before, because I don't want people calling me for coaching, because I solve a very, very specific problem for a very specific group of people. And in my opinion, you should hire a coach who solves a very specific problem for a very specific group of people. If you get into a coaching program that has 800 students and they're just kind of doing stuff, there's just better coaches out there. I've been in coaching programs like that. So my coaching program's small. I coach 36 people at a time. We do 3 groups of 12. We have 3 in-person meetings, but really the whole, and then we coach every other week. We have a variety of other things that we're doing. I always tell everybody, if there's something that could be added that would help my clients move, I've added it. I mean, anything that any coaching program's ever had that would help them, I've done that. And the in-person events are all included in the coaching, in the coaching investment.
Cool.
What I solve is My loan officers know how to make money. That's not their issue. Most of them have been in pretty much every coaching program that there is in mortgage. Their issue is they don't want to do it anymore. That's the problem. They want the results. They want they want the significance. They want to be one of those effortless entrepreneurs, is what I call them, the people who just effortless succeed. They want to live that life.
Mm-hmm.
They just can't seem to find motivation for one of two reasons. Either A, you have a ton of money and you just not really, it's kind of empty, not really feeling a whole lot of purpose in what you do. Or two, you don't quite have the money that you want, but you still look at the stuff you need to do, and somehow you find a way of not doing it that day, or doing 2 of the 10. Even though you run it really, really bad, you can't do it. Either way, my program solves both of those issues. Because when we're looking at, for lack of a better word, motivation, I hate saying that because I'm not a motivational coach. It's not how I would describe what we do. But the way I see it, there's a better way of doing things. And in 2023, 2024, going forward, you're going to need to be more to win. There's going to be, there's no email campaign. There's no CRM. There's no Instagram reel that you're going to post that's going to make you a top producer in 2023, 2024, 2025, going forward. It's just, there's no, people have been there and done that. We've seen marketing. These are now mediums of which for you to express your personal brand. So what do we do in design? The reason I called it in design is I believe every single person has been designed to do something. Until you start leveraging your unique abilities and your design, the reason people like you, until you start leveraging that as your personal brand, I think you're going to have a really, really, really hard time succeeding at the level that you know you're capable of. And you're going to have a really hard time being motivated to do it. I'll describe it this way. All that doing, the CRMs, the emails, the texts, the coffee meetings, the realtor classes, the happy hours, that stuff's the doing.
Yeah.
That's just not that hard. It's everywhere. It's in every business book. It's in every coaching program. We all know the doing. Most people don't want to do the doing. I don't blame them, because the doing, for the most part, it sucks. It's time consuming. Here's how the ultra elites have found a way to do the doing at the highest level and be motivated to do it. They found a way to make their doing being. So instead of posting on social, when I post on social, it's not an inconvenience. I'm excited. There is something I want to share with y'all so badly. I want to share it with you. So I'm stoked to do it. If I'm going to invite you to an event that I'm hosting, it's not an inconvenience for me. I can't wait to show you what I've discovered about picking a different ego, a different identity. Like, I'm excited to show that to you. So all the same things. You're still cold calling. You're still emailing. You're still doing the stuff. Everybody's doing the stuff. You can't get around the doing. The doing must be done. The question is, how do I make my doing being? Because we know if you make your doing being the stuff that you would do, whether you were a loan officer or not, you're going to be motivated to do it, because it's what you would do either way, whether you got paid or not. I would do this anyways. So really what InDesign does is, what is that? What would you do whether you got paid or not? And let's make that your personal brand. Because again, in professional services, the only thing that differentiates you from the other guy is you. So let's get on, let's create a person that you're impressed with, a person that you're proud to be. Everyone's going to see an impressive person, a person who's proud to be themselves. That is the most attractive personal brand. When you look at Ed Milet, we're not impressed by his wealth. There's a ton of wealthy people. What we're impressed by is this guy is a freaking baller. He's pouring into everybody else. He finds time to get into the gym. He's maintaining his relationship with his wife. He's finding a system to leave the most impressive life and leave no stone unturned. And it is so attractive. And he will win. If he was a loan officer, he'd smoke every loan officer in his market.
He would.
Right. And that's my point. So InDesign, to me, stop emulating other people. Stop creating something you're not. Find out what you've been designed to do. Turn that into your personal brand. And I promise you will have no money problems ever again.
I love it. I love it, man. 45 minutes flew by. I have so many more questions, and this is all we got. But look, reach out to Roland. I think if you're looking for this particular type of coaching, he could be the great fit. He's exclusive. He only takes so many. But look, that's how you get the best coach. And that's how you get the most out of it. I agree with him. There's a lot of coaching programs, and a lot of them, basically, they don't work. But they don't work because maybe that coaching program, or because you didn't work. And taking a look at yourself, is always the hardest part. Plus being honest with yourself. Thank you, Roland. Thank you for this. I can't wait to hang out with you. And look, I'm going to send you the good bourbon. That's my gift to you.
Please
All
do.
right.
Please do. I'll give you the address.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day. Thanks, Roland.